All right, guys, so today we're going to be finding the equation of a trend line. The two things that I need to do in order to find that is that I need to find the slope and the y-intercept, just like we have for the past couple months. So I took this problem out of your iReady books. We're going to take a look at it a little bit and dissect some of the things, just like we did a couple days ago. What I want us to be able to do is find the equation of the trend line thing that we talked about algebraically. Now, the trend line, they actually gave to us on here. So we're going to see if we can get our answers close to what they got. So just by looking at that, what was the slope that they got? They actually use like some technology or something like that to find the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope is 1.8. So the last couple of days we found the slope of a line algebraically. Let's do that for this problem. What do you need in order to find the slope of something? Well, you either need a graph or you need some points to make a table out of. And in fact, you only really need 2 points. So on here, the next line, I say make sure you take 2 points that are on the... Now, they give us a ton of points up here. I don't know how many there actually are, but they give us a bunch of them. What I'm trying to say there is make sure that you get 2 points that are actually on the trend line. So 2 that I like is maybe this one right here. That one's really on the trend line. And that one's going to be 9, comma, if I look over my table, it's either 27 or 25. And because it's the higher of the two, it's going to be 9, comma 27. And then why don't I do 2? So 2, comma, looking at the table, 14. And I think I have a spot for us to find the slope. So make sure you take 2 points that are on the trend line. I think I have a spot for us to do the slope on the next page. So again, one more time. My 2 points are 214 and 927. So on the next page, apparently I didn't. So let's do it real quick. 214 and 927. Finding the slope just like I did yesterday. I end up getting 13 over 7. And if I take 13 over 7 and I use my calculator to figure out what that turns into, because I have no idea what 13 divided by 7 is off the top of my head, I end up getting 1.85 or 1.86. How does that compare to what they said? So if I look at what they said 1.8 instead of 1.85, which is pretty darn close. And the reason that theirs is off a little bit, they don't do it like we do. Like I said before, they actually use some sort of like technology, some sort of like data technology, where they put in all these, and they don't just use those 2 points, they actually use all the points. It's sort of confusing. But we're just going to do it this way. And that's all they expect you to do. It's just doing it like hand, or doing it by hand. And we were pretty darn close. So we were 0.06 off. The next thing we need to do is take a look at the y-intercept. Now, what does the book say the y-intercept is? So if I look back, I think the book said the y-intercept is something like 10.5. So going back to where we were, they say it's 10.5. How about the graph? Let's look at the graph and see what they think the y-intercept is just by looking at the graph. Looking at the graph, the y-intercept, this is actually sort of confusing. When I first did this, I thought that was the y-intercept, but this is 0, so it's right there, which is just a little bit above 10, and that makes sense. It says it's 10.5. So I'd say like 10.5 again. So I need to show you how to do this algebraically. They actually give us enough info where we just need to use it correctly. One of my favorite things to do with functions with these things is make a table. So in order to find the y-intercept, all I got to do is make a table. And we sort of did this last chapter. If I have the points 2, 14, and 927, I know my slope is 1.85 over 1. What do I got to do to figure out my y-intercept? I need to go back up to 0, right? But every single time I move back by 1, obviously I'm going to have to move back by 1 twice. How much do I have to move back by on this side? Well, the 1 and 1.85 go together, So you got to move back by 1.85 twice. Now, obviously, you could go 1.85 times 2 and then go 14 minus that. I'm going to just do it the longer way and go 14 minus 1.85 to get 12.15. And that's what's across from 1. And then let's do it again. Minus 1.85 to get 10.3, which I think they said 10.5. I put 10.5 there. 10.3, which is pretty darn close. So that's how I would find the y-intercept. I already showed you how to find the slope. And really, if you can do those two things for today, 1.85 from right there, x plus the 10.3, that's really all I'm asking for today. So we're just going to practice that a couple more times throughout these notes. I think I have one that I want to do with you guys down here. Oh, and I say, does that match the y-intercept from the problem? Again, they said 10.5, which is pretty darn close. So yes. All right, so let's do that again right here. So this one's a little bit different. I have a point. I don't have anything else on a table, though. And I know that I need to go back and find 0 to find the y-intercept, because it says the slope is 3/4, and all these have slopes of 3/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that slope, that 3/4, because that tells me a rise and a runx. Thank you, Carson. So the rise on this thing is 3, and my runx is 4. So that means that I want to go this side by 3 every single time. So 10 and 13 and 16 and so on and so forth. And then I want to go this side by 4. That's what that slope tells us. So 4 more than 8 would be 12, and then 16, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, I need to find a y-intercept. I need to find 0. So how am I going to do that? Well, hopefully you're smart enough to know that I just got to go back by 4 a couple times, because if I go back by 4 on this side, I'll get to 4, and then 0. So let's do that over here again. Let's go by 3 and then 4. So I did 4 on this side. So let's go back by 3 on this side to get 4, and then 3 less than 4 to get what's across from 0 is 1. So obviously it's choice A. If you can do that, I'm pretty impressed. So let's, I think, practice that one more time, and then I have 2 for you guys to try, and then we'll be done. So on this one, again, all you're going to do is make a table. I always like to put the smaller x on top. Figure out what it's changing by. I get -2. I get 4. So my slope is going to be what again? And again, this is my x, that's my y. Rise over runx. -2 over 4, which reduces to be -1 over 2. So it says, what's the slope in the y-intercept? I got -1/2. Now, usually I'd have to go back to 0, but take a look at this. They already gave it to me. 0,9. So what's the linear equation? Again, if I write my y equals mx plus b, that's all really that the rest of this year is all about. I'm going to plug in -1/2 in for x, or for m, and 9 in for b. All right, so down here I have 2 for you guys to try that are similar to the ones that we looked at today. Can you guys pause the video, try it? One of them should be pretty easy, and then unpause it when you're done to check. All right, so hopefully that was enough time for you to pause it and try it, or yeah, try it yourself. Number 1 is super easy. Hopefully some of you guys noticed that right away and already picked B. How do I know to pick B right away? Right? If you didn't notice that and you started doing the slope, which is definitely fine, that side is up 3, that side is up 4, and obviously rise over runx, so 3 over 4, that's the one that is 3 over 4. And yes, this is an old state test question. That should have been pretty easy for you guys. This one, on the other hand, is a little bit more challenging. So I got 412. Now, this whole entire time we've been using a slope to find my next point, but take a look at what this says. It doesn't say anything about a slope, so I can't go down by 2 or do any of that stuff. What I can do, though, is use it as a point. It says the y-intercept is -2. They didn't say it nice. I would yell at them if they said it like that. I would make them say 0, -2, right? And that should really help us. And that should make sense because all these have y-intercepts of -2. So now all I got to do is what I've been doing this whole entire time. This side's going up by 14. This side's going up by 4. And 14 divided by 4 gives us 7 over 2. So obviously, the choice B is correct. On the back page, I have one more like word problem-y one to do as well. So I, again, took this one out of your iReady books that I don't really like that much, but I like some of the things. We're going to see if we can get similar to what they got. So we're going to try to find the y-intercept and the slope. So, yeah, so let's do that. I'm going to find 2 points that are sort of on the trend line again, and I think it's up there. Yep. So looking at it, what are 2 that are sort of on the trend line? I like this one right at the end. I think that's 55. So let's go up here and see what point that is. 55, comma 2. And then let's use one that's a little bit farther away, because I know 50 is pretty nice. Let's do, I don't know, 10? 10 looks like a nice one. So 10 and 16. All right, so again, all I'm going to do is make a table. I'm going to go back and find my y-intercept here in a second, but let's find the slope first. So that is going to give me negative, obviously. How much? 14. And this is going to give me 45. So if I wanted to make a slope out of that, I get negative 14 over 45, which I have no idea what that is. They got 0.03. Let's see how close we can get. Divided by 45. Obviously, our answer should be negative. I got 0.31 repeating, which is pretty good. So if it's 0.3 or negative 0.3, that's exactly what they got. All right, so here's one that I think is probably the hardest thing to do. So now, obviously, it's negative 0.3 over 1, which means when this side is going up by 1, this side has to go up by 0.3. How many times am I going to have to go back, or how many times am I going to have to do that if I want to actually find 0? Right, I'm going to have to do that a bunch. I'm going to have to do that 10 times. So instead of going by 1 10 times, can I go by 10? And each time you went by 1 before, you're going to have to go by 0.3. So let's instead go by 0.3 10 times, which is obviously just 3. So let's go back by 3, or go up by 3. What's 3 more than 16? Obviously 19. So I would have gotten 0,19 that way, which is exactly what they got, which is awesome for us. So again, that's how you find the slope and the y-intercept from a trend line. The final thoughts. Find slope between 2 points, we need to create a table. In the equation y equals mx plus b, b is the y-intercept. Don't worry about that one. And honestly, don't even worry about that one. Sorry, I should have taken those off. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.